The next key term that we're going to be looking at is OBLA. This is another acronym. It stands for the onset of blood lactate accumulation. Now, onset meaning start, blood lactate referring to lactic acid in the blood, and accumulation is another word for build-up. So we're talking about the build-up of lactic acid in the blood that starts and when that starts. So we know that lactic acid is coming from the lactic acid energy system. It's a byproduct of using that system to produce, to resynthesize ATP, because there is not enough oxygen to clear that from our system. So we're going to use another graph to explain this concept. Right. And we're going to be measuring our blood lactate, or our lactic acid in our blood, which we measure in millimoles per litre, and comparing that to intensity, which we are measuring as a percentage of our VO2 max. Right. As we go along, this would be working at 100% intensity. This is working at 0%, so therefore we are not working at all. So we have our resting levels of lactic acid, which are quite low. So we need to use a scale on the side here, 5, 10, and 15 millimoles per litre of lactic acid. If we were just sitting around doing not much, then our blood lactate would be low. So at resting levels, which is less than 1. Okay. When we begin to exercise, though, however, and if we are working towards a higher intensity, then we will begin to get blood lactate building up, so lactic acid building up. Now, the lactic acid system contributes at all times. One of the systems is working harder than the others, depending on the intensity and the type of activity, but the lactic acid system is always working. So no matter what exercise or activity you're doing, there's always some build-up of lactic acid. But that build-up changes over time, depending on how hard we're working. So the graph might go like this. Okay. So we may have, if this is 100% intensity, then we've got 50% intensity here. Okay. So we might be starting with a beginning level of about 2.5 on the side there, and as our intensity increases 50%, we're not working at a maximal or even even partly maximal level, so we still don't have very much lactic acid happening in our blood. But as soon as we start to get to higher levels, then our lactic acid in our blood starts to build up even more. So if we're at 75% here on this graph, map that across, and you can see that that is about 4 millimoles per litre of lactic acid or blood lactate. This here, when we reach the 4, is what we call OBLA.